Hey everybody, welcome back to another F123 scenario. This week it's in Australia and we're Zhou Guan Yu and we're in the Alfa Romeo. So let's get into it. So as you can see it's raining and we're starting out on inters. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I put the downforce on my front wing down for when I pit, because we are going to be pitting in this event. The weather does subside and it dries up pretty quickly actually. So we're going to just try to burn off a little bit of fuel here before we get going. And the one thing about this event is the straight line speed of these cars is insane. Mine, not so much. So I'm not even going to bother trying to get Ocon here on the straight. It's not going to happen. So we're going to set him up in turn 3, I guess it is. Because they're quite slow in the corners, the 110 AI in this event. So coming down here, we're gonna dummy him that we're gonna go to the outside, and we're gonna switch back to the inside. He's gonna move under braking, which is terrific. So we get that move done. And up next is Piastri in the McLaren. Now he's a ways ahead, not a ways ahead, but 8/10. So we're gonna burn some overtake, try to close the gap up here a little bit, because when we do come into sector 2 here, we are gonna catch them pretty good. So we're 8/10, almost 9/10 behind, and we're gonna get a good exit here. 4/10, 3/10. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send it and try to overtake all 3 of these cars here. And we get it, and we stay within the track limits, which is what I always try to do. Was a little bit of a bully move, but it's the AI. Nobody likes them, so who cares? So we are on to the next grouping of cars here. And the objective here is to finish in 2nd place. So we're going to go to the inside of Perez there, and he's going to back out. I guess he got scared, which was great for us because now we've got another car passed, and we got Norris up ahead. So we are going to try and do what we just did to the last 2 cars here, or the last one I should say. Oh, well, we don't need to. He goes to the outside, he gets a poor exit. So right here we're going to just hope and pray for the best outcome. We are going to stick to the inside. Sainz is going to back out and give us that position, so that worked out absolutely perfect. We didn't lose much time, but unfortunately now Hamilton's going to hold us up through this turn. So we think about going down the inside, but we say no. We're going to set him up on, I believe in sector 2 is what we're going to do. So here we're not going to burn much overtake. We're 2/10 behind him, so we're pretty close. We don't want to be too close to him because we're going to catch him through this turn here if we are, and we'll probably run into him. So here we're going to get a great exit. We're going to hit the overtake, and we're going to go down the inside of him, and we're going to make this move. He's going to come back with a straight line speed. We're going to outbrake him, and we get that move done. So now we're up into 2nd. Oh, I'm sorry, I said we need to finish in 2nd. We actually need to finish in 3rd, so we already hit that objective. So we have Verstappen up next, who's in 1st, and we are 4/10 behind him. So again, we're not even going to bother, not even going to try him on the straight, because even if we hit overtake, there's no catching him. You can see he's pulling away. So we are going to set him up in the turn 3 again, where we have overtaken the other cars. So right here we get a good exit, and we are going to hit a little bit of overtake just to close the gap slightly. And we're going to go down the inside, and we're going to hug the inside. He's going to back out and give us that position. So now all we need to do is pull a gap as much as we can from Hamilton. Now Verstappen doesn't matter, because when it dries up, Hamilton is going to pit when we pit, and Verstappen is going to stay out for an extra lap. So he is not our threat, he's not our race, we don't need to worry about him. So the fact that he's in front of Hamilton is going to help us. So right now I'm not going to waste too much ERS. I'm going to use a little bit of overtake here and there. But I'm going to do things differently in this event. I'm not going to blow it all on one lap. When it dries up, I'm going to put the softs on, and I'm not gonna waste my battery on one single lap. I find that it's probably faster. Like, you do get a higher score for the fastest lap, but overall, if I save my ERS, I'll have more consistent faster laps overall, as opposed to just one fast lap and then a bunch of slow laps, because I don't have any ERS left and I'll be super slow on the straights. So we are 3.5 seconds ahead of Hamilton right now, and he's actually going to pit for mediums. A lot of cars pit for mediums, and they're actually pretty rapid on the mediums. I find that on the softs, the last lap that we do, the tires do degrade pretty big, and the lap time does suffer slightly, but it's not a big deal. So basically, these last wet laps here, like I said, we're just going to try to put in good laps, stay in the track limits. We're not going to cut any corners. We're not going to abuse it. We're going to do it honestly, because that's what we do here. And we're just going to, like I said, try to pull as much of a gap from Hamilton as we can. The only downside of this event is when we do pit, a lot of cars stay out on inters, and it's kind of hit or miss where you're going to catch them and if they're just going to get right in your way and ruin the run, because that's happened to me a few times. So this one, you'll see I get pretty lucky, and there's a bit of skill involved in it as well, but we'll cover that when we get to it. Now, as you can see, Hulkenberg's out of the session. He's off the side of the road there, so there's nothing new about that for Haas and Australia, as we know a few years back. So we are 5 seconds ahead of Hamilton now, and that's good. We want to pull as much of a gap as we can, because he's gonna try and catch us. So the farther ahead we get, the better. So we'll watch these few laps here until the DRS is enabled, and then I'll come back in and give some more commentary on that. Alright, so here, DRS is enabled, so I'm going to pit. I choose to pit here. I've tried the event where I tried to stay out, and that way it avoids cars that also stay out, but it's actually slower. This is faster. So here we're going to just get under the speed limit. I thought I was getting a 5-second penalty there, and I thought it was over. Luckily, we just absolutely did it perfectly. So we're going to pit for the softs. We have a good pit stop, and away we go. So now you're going to see a lot of cars are staying out. My teammate's in the pits, good for him. And I know here that I'm going to catch these cars at some point. We have a car coming up behind us here, Magnussen. We're going to cut him off because we don't want him ahead of us. He's going to slow us down. So here we're going to hit some overtake, and it's not fully dry yet, so the inters are still pretty quick. And we're going to stay ahead of Magnussen, so that's good. When we get to Sector 3 is when it's going to be really dry, and the inters are just going to be absolute garbage. So that's when we're going to catch this pack of cars. So here, it's a worst turn I've ever had in my life right there, so that was lovely. Here, I'm not going to use any overtake because I don't want to be close to these cars. I want to be as far behind them as I can be, so I'm going to hit the DRS, not going to use any overtake. So we're 1.2 behind, and you're going to see how fast we're going to catch these cars here. Get a good exit, DRS, 0.6. And here, we are going to go down the inside, just get past them. We're going to pass Albon as well. Stroll, we're going to go here, we're going to go out, nope, we're going to go inside. and we're going to overtake him as well. So that worked out pretty good, didn't lose much time. And we're going to get the DRS again, so that helps out. So that's really the only grouping of cars there that could have absolutely screwed our entire run. So we get through that, and we do it pretty well. So we are in first. Hamilton has pit for mediums, and he's 4 seconds behind us. So right now, I am just going to not use a lot of my overtake. I'm going to use a little bit here and there, and I'm going to try to put in consistent laps and stay ahead of Hamilton. Because before this run, I wasn't able to beat him. He actually got me by about half a second each time. So we're way ahead of our previous runs here, which is nice. We got a lot of clean air, we just need to put in those laps. And for this event, I actually used a dry setup, and I raised my front and rear wing 2 clicks, and that's why I set up on my pit stop to have my front wing lower 2 clicks for when it does dry up. And it worked pretty well. I don't really have a wet setup for here. There's I don't know, it's hard to find wet setups. Most people don't have them. They don't have the wet time trial anymore, so you don't even really have a base to work with. You're just kind of guessing. So I just tried my dry setup and just altered it slightly, and it seemed to have worked alright. So we're 3.5, 3.6 ahead of Hamilton now, and we're going to do a 20.5 flat on this lap. And we're on lap 12 of 15 here, so we just need to hold them off for 3 3/4 more laps. I mean, we don't really need to hold them off, but we want to, obviously, for bragging rights. But the objective was to finish in third. We are going to do that, obviously, very easily. Now the 110 AI, they're super fast on the straights, but they are so slow in the corners. And the fact that I'm ahead of them by this much, being so far behind at the start of the event, it just, I don't know, it's kind of silly. They need to toughen up the 110 AI. They should be a lot faster than this. That's just my opinion. So we almost lose it there, but we hang on to it. And we still have about 40% ERS. So we want to keep it around there. We don't want to burn it all. We want to just try to put in consistent laps here until the end. So coming around the last turn, we're going to hit a little bit of overtake, not too much. And this lap is going to be a 20.455. So we did slightly better than our last lap. We're very consistent on these 2 laps here, so that's good. And where's Hamilton? He is 3.3 behind us. So he's not really catching us. So I think we're doing the right thing here. We're doing a good job. And this event was, at times it was a little frustrating with the AI because they're very random. Sometimes they slam on the brakes in the corners and you basically rear end them and you've got to start over. But I liked it because it's wet. It's on inters, so it's something different. There is some strategy involved, I guess, when you pit and how you overtake the cars. Obviously, dive bombing them is not how you want to race if you're a league racer. But like I said, when it's the AI, it's fair game because nobody cares about them. They just get in the way. So we're at 30% ERS. Trying to conserve it, trying to keep it as best we can. Use a little bit here and there. We're going to use some here on the straight. And we're going to come down to the finish line here. It's going to be a 20.615. So basically our last 3 laps were within, just over a tenth of each other. So that's good. That's really good. That's what you want. You want to be consistent in these events. So Hamilton now is just about 3 seconds behind us. So we're doing a good job holding him off. He's not really catching us. And that's what we want. We don't want him to catch us. We want to finish in first. Even though we don't have to, that's what we want to do. And I did have my differential set to 60 when it was wet to help with traction. And once I pitted, I set it back down to 55. So Hamilton's 2.8. So he's catching us slightly on this lap, but not too much. So we're coming around here up to the last turn. We're going to get a good exit here. We're going to hit some overtake. And we are going to do a 20.9. So the laps are starting to slightly get a little slower from tire wear. But this lap here, we're on the last lap. We're going to push because that's all we know how to do. The tires do still have grip, so they're not completely gone, but they are losing some grip. They're getting worn. So we're going to come around here, we're going to get a good exit, and we're going to hit some overtake. We're basically just going to drain it here on this straight now. Curvy straight, I should say. And Hamilton now, he's catching us pretty good, 1.8. So he's draining his battery, as the AI like to do on their last lap. So we're going to get a good exit there, and we're going to just waste all of our ERS here. And we're going to try to finish out this lap strong. So he's 1.4, coming around here to the final turn. He's not going to catch us. And we're going to hit the overtake to the finish line. So this lap here is going to be a 21.3. So it's noticeably slower, but it wasn't too bad. Saving the ERS definitely helped us on that last lap, because if we had none, we probably would have been closer to a 22. So we get driver of the day. That's terrific. Not really. Don't really care.
So here they come now, out onto the podium. It's thrilling to see this
strutting his stuff out to the podium.
With the best in the sport.
Not sure if he's ever been there in real life or not in F1. Don't think he has. So our overall time was a 28:16.201, which I actually thought it was going to be a little bit quicker. So I was a little surprised by that, but it's still good. It's my best run overall. Our lap times here, as you can see on the softs, 25, 24, 26, 29. So we were pretty consistent. And our score is going to be 320,963. And currently P2 on PlayStation. And P1, the score doesn't quite add up, so I think he used a lot of flashbacks, or he either got a 3-second time penalty or some sort of collision warning that affected his score, but he's in P1, so GG. You guys could like and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Thanks.